If you're like me, you might need more storage space, and you are probably considering putting a shed on your property. I had this decision to make last year, and I researched a lot of different options to make this happen. I decided to build my own shed, but after I built my shed, a friend of mine who had purchased a kit asked me to build that for them. So this past year, I had the opportunity to build both of these sheds. They are both 8 foot by 12 foot, and if you are trying to make this decision, hopefully this side-by-side comparison will help you make the right choice for you. I think a common misconception with kit sheds is that they will be easier to assemble, like you're purchasing something from IKEA or something. This is definitely not the case. A kit shed, you are still building a shed. You're still building a structure. You will still need almost all of the same tools. You're going to need a hammer, a tape measure, a jigsaw, a ladder, a speed square, an impact driver, a screwdriver, a level, all your painting accessories. With the do-it-yourself shed, you definitely also need a circular saw. And when you look at things that make this job tremendously easier, a framing nail gun, hands down #1 thing that I highly recommend that you either purchase or rent because it'll make life much easier. If you're doing shingles, a roofing nail gun also makes this task tremendously easier. I just purchased a used one the morning that I was roofing my friend's shed, and I could resell it for the same price. A post level is also helpful, sawhorses, a tool belt, and clamps. So both of these, you are definitely building a structure. You also do need the same skill set. The only thing that you're not doing in the kit shed is cutting the boards. And if you are not comfortable enough with power tools to cut a 2x4, then you probably are not going to be comfortable enough to be up on a steep pitched roof, trying to shingle a shed either. So really you do need the same skills and you do need the same tools. So let's take a look at the foundation of these sheds. This is one of the main differences between the do-it-yourself shed and the kit shed. In the do-it-yourself shed, I built this foundation on 2x6s with a 3/4 inch floor on top of that. The side rails are a solid 12 foot on each side. This makes for a nice sturdy base. The kit shed is designed to ship in the smallest possible box, so there is not a board in this entire shed that is longer than 8 foot long. And you're building an 8 foot by 12 foot shed. So to get the length on the side of 12 feet, you're actually taking an 8 foot board and a 4 foot board, and then you're toenailing them together. And so that is not nearly as sturdy as a solid board. So that in combination with the 2x4s, and then you put actually a thinner floor on top of it, it does make for a floor that when you step into it, it feels a little squishy. It does not feel like the rock solid structure that the do-it-yourself shed feels like. So if you do decide to go with a kit shed, this is one area that I would absolutely upgrade. The #1 upgrade would be to at least get 12 foot long 2x4s. The #2 upgrade would be to just do them all on 2x6s so you have a rock solid foundation. One of the most exciting steps of building a shed is getting vertical progress. So getting one wall up feels so good. And the walls are another area where these sheds differ. On the do-it-yourself shed, the studs are 16 inches on center. So they're really built to the standards like a home would be built. On the kit shed, the side walls are 24 inches on center, and that frankly is sufficient for a shed. The area that was strangest to me though was the back wall. Instead of that being really studded out at all, it's kind of this weird T design, and then the shelf helps hold it together. It does end up sturdy enough, but it was actually more complicated and more difficult to build, in my opinion, than just spending the money on a few extra 2x4s and studding it out like a normal shed would be, or a normal structure would be. So that was probably the biggest stumbling block in place where I was kind of scratching my head going, I don't understand, why are we doing it this way when there would be a much better way to do this? So, overall, even on the side, if I'm going to build something, I would much rather build it extra strong. So, investing in a few extra 2x4s would make that shed more solid. The shed, again, my do-it-yourself shed is going to last forever. The siding on these two sheds is fairly similar. The stuff on the do-it-yourself shed is a little bit thicker, but quite frankly, they are both absolutely sufficient. They come pre-primed, so this is an area where I feel the sheds are quite comparable. The roofs of these two sheds are a little bit difficult to compare since they are two different styles. But structurally, there are a couple of differences. So when I did my single slant roof, I used hurricane ties, and this made assembling the roof very easy, and it is absolutely rock solid. The kit shed, this is an area where it being pre-cut is very handy. It is nice that the bird's mouths are pre-cut. The rafters are extremely easy to assemble and pretty easy to put up. When you do put them up, they are just being held in with a toenail though, so it ends up, solid enough by the time you get the plywood up there. But in the meantime, I kind of had to, put some boards up, kind of hold it in place. They definitely did not feel solid at all until the plywood was up. So I really did like using the hurricane ties better. For the actual roofing, I used two different styles of roof. On mine, I decided to go with the foamed polycarbonate corrugated roof. I used the Suntop brand. I really liked this look. I just thought it was a little bit more sleek. And on the kit shed, the people I was building this for did want shingles. The kit shed may have been easier to do the roof on had it not been right next to a wall on one side, and then on the other side of it there was a pool, so it was extremely difficult to get a ladder anywhere that I needed it. And this shed is actually very steep. The pitch of the roof was quite steep, and it was actually probably the most challenging part of either shed. So you can see that I have the nice little roof bracket up there and a shelf. That's because I was still waiting for the ridge cap when that picture was taken, so that actually stayed up there for a little bit. But so just two different styles, just totally your personal choice. So the next thing I want to look at is a side-by-side comparison of the trim of these sheds. So the kit comes with trim that is pre-cut, which was very handy, but it is very thin. It's only about 2.5 inches wide and 1/2 inch thick. They actually just looks like they took the siding material and just cut it into strips. So it was far less expensive than the beefy trim that I used on my shed. And it was a little bit challenging. It gave you no room for error for where your siding and stuff came together. It really doesn't cover up much of anything, but it does look nice. It is just a shed, and it definitely is sufficient. The nice trim that I put on my shed is 3.5 inches wide, and it was 3/4 inch thick, and it really does give a very nice, substantial look to the shed. So here's the comparison of the doors. Both sets of doors are very different. However, I actually like both sets. On the do-it-yourself shed, you end up with these really nice big beefy doors, a lot like a tough shed. I like the extra width. You get almost the entire space of the shed to be able to open up to get things in and out. The kit shed doesn't allow you quite as much width. But considering the materials that it comes with, the doors actually came together really nicely. It has a full piano hinge, and they work really well. They're a lot thinner, a lot more lightweight, but it is just a shed. I do really like the windows. I thought that it was a cute look, and I was overall pleased with the doors. Okay, so let's wrap this up with a little pro and con look at these sheds. So obviously the do-it-yourself shed is much more sturdy. I love the 16 on center studs, the 2x6 foundation, the thicker floors, hurricane ties, heavy duty doors, and of course the 12-foot boards that are solid and not toe-nailed together. I also really like the freedom that I had to be able to customize and make this shed look the way that I wanted it to look. When I build something, I want it to be my build. I started with nice detailed plans from iCreatables, and I'll put a link to them in the description here. But I was able to definitely make it my own. I paid approximately $1,000 total for the shed, not including the lean-to portion. And I do feel that when you build something from scratch, you do get more of a sense of accomplishment. The biggest con with the do-it-yourself shed would be that, of course, you have a lot of cutting to do. But I love saws, so for me, it's not really a con. With the kit shed, some of the things that I really liked about it is I thought that the windows were great. That little side window opens and closes. There were vents included. I thought it was a really attractive design. I did like the pre-cut pieces when I could find the right one. And it does come with a shelf and a loft. So that was really nice. The other really nice advantage of the kit shed is it does arrive all in one box. So with the exception of the roofing materials and paint and stuff, I didn't have to make nearly as many trips to the store, so that was really nice. The cons, sorting through the massive pile of pieces to find the right board was very frustrating to me, especially since I had just built a shed. I found it much easier to just grab the next board and cut it to the dimension that I needed instead of trying to find the one that was stamped with the correct letters for the next piece that I needed. It is sufficient, but certainly not as sturdy as the do-it-yourself shed. Again, we're looking at the 24 inches on center for the sidewalls, and then that weird T design for the back wall. The 2x4 foundation also could use some work, and I definitely am not a fan of the toe-nailed boards to make the 12-foot sections. The roof materials are an added expense, so when you're looking at the price of a kit shed, you definitely have to keep that in mind. That steep pitched roof was also a challenge. The instructions must be followed exactly. If you do make a mistake, about 4 steps later you will realize it, and they really have to happen exactly in the correct order. There's not a lot of room for freedom or ability to customize this shed. The kits cost between $1,500 and $2,500, plus you still have to consider the roof materials and paint. So, that really are personal choices for each person to make. In the future, I believe that I will probably always build my own shed. Thank you so much for watching. Have fun building, and if you want more DIY videos like this one, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.